UPod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/UPodStreet, and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPodStreet at checkout, and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold, because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? Welcome to UPod Street. As always, I'm your co-host, Jimmy Horn, and joining me is the brunette Thor himself, Jack Bain. Jack, how are you doing on this Tuesday?
Doing pretty good. I think probably just right off the top, gotta address the elephant of the day.
Yeah, so obviously, we had talked about last week. I was going to go to the free Orioles workout that was going to happen today. They were going to have a rally there as well, preseason rally. Did get canceled because unfortunately we had some very tragic news, I guess is the best way to describe it. We awoke this morning. I don't know about you, Jack. I woke to several text messages from people asking if I had seen it. A cargo ship hit the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which is a bridge that connects 695 going over the Patapsco River. And the bridge collapsed, and there is a big effort going on to deal with that. President addressed it today. I mean, it's national news. It's not even national news. It's international news. It's being reported on all over the world. Pretty scary. Pretty horrific event. Obviously, the Orioles felt that it was not the climate to hold a rally, and I don't blame them for that. I think that was the right move.
Yeah.
I know, Jack, you know where I work. That bridge is the viewpoint from my work. And it was just, it was really strange being at work today and looking at the wreck. Obviously, we hope everyone's okay.
Definitely send all our thoughts out to anybody who's involved in the event itself, as well as any lingering effects that it might have on folks in the next couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird that at times like this we do turn to sports. I think in part sports are a good distraction when difficult times take place, but also sports are oftentimes a community builder, and I think the Orioles and Baltimore are so intertwined as far as the community is concerned that I think it's a good way to move forward by talking about sports. The only thing we can do is move forward as a community and take care of one another and try to rebuild the best we can.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move forward and take care of yourselves, everyone. And some other sombering news. We're not starting off super happy and smiley here, Jack, but on the heels of the Orioles about to officially be transferred to David Rubenstein and friends, Peter Angelos, owner of the Baltimore Orioles, passed away this week. He had not been well for some time. He had not been around the ball club for some time. And, it's interesting because it is a public figure, someone that everyone in Baltimore knew the name, even if he hasn't been around the club for a while. And it's hard because, the Angelos family gets a lot of criticism for their ownership of the Orioles, a lot of it rightfully so. My first reaction to this, Jack, was what are people gonna do when they do the in memoriam segment before opening day?
No, it'll be classy. I can't imagine anything else.
I really want it to be classy. I hope everyone
No,
going
it will be.
is
It'll be
respectful. Peter Angelos, for all his faults as an owner, two big things that he really did do is A, he kept the Orioles in Baltimore, and B, a lot of charity, a lot of philanthropy for the city. So just be respectful on opening day. That's all. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it has to be said, but you never know. You never know. Alcohol's involved in opening day a lot, and so just
Yeah.
be respectful. But with that, it's so strange the timing of this because it's set that the MLB owner is going to take the final step to finalize the purchase of the Baltimore Orioles by David Rubenstein and his fellow investors, set to be tomorrow night. So when we wake up Thursday, which is supposed to be opening day, we'll see if the rain has anything to say
Yeah.
about that. We'll be looking at new owners for the Baltimore Orioles. Really just feels like a weird week news wise, Jack.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only way I can describe it.
Yeah,
Uh,
a lot of ups and downs for sure. I mean, we've been ready for the sale of the team for a couple weeks now, almost a month. So good to finally have that just done. We can focus on the baseball that's ahead of us this year. Season allegedly starting on Thursday, like you said, the rain could have a big part in it, and it's kind of supposed to dump. So I would expect the first game of the season to be on Friday. Um, but
yeah,
yeah.
they probably won't tell us till tomorrow. I'm remembering correctly last year when they pushed it back a day. I think they told us the day before.
Yeah,
I think it was literally like the day before. They held off as long as they could.
yeah,
There's a chance that the rain might push off by the time of game time, but even then, there's going to be so much water to drain and everything like that. Friday's looking like 65 and sunny. So if you have to push it back to Friday, I don't think it's a bad option. I know a
yeah,
lot of people aren't going to like that because people have already taken their days off and everything like that. The one thing I will say though, Jack, is I think last year as a lesson for everyone,
yeah,
everyone I've talked to, when I'm like, oh, as a heads up, it might get pushed to Friday because of weather. Everyone's like, oh, don't worry, I took Friday off too.
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so I think a lot of people kind of learned from that experience.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want to take off Friday anyways? Make it a long
Yeah,
weekend.
why not have a 4-day weekend? Why not?
Yeah,
Um, but with that, Jack, I mean, here we are. We're here. We're
yeah,
here.
we're here.
And with that, what you and I discussed last week, where the Orioles were sitting there at 46 players on their roster, they had to get it down to 26. It looks like they've done that.
Yeah,
Surely, Jack, surely the Major League Baseball's number one overall prospect, the absolute phenom that is Jackson Holliday, made the Orioles roster, right?
yeah, yeah. This is good. We finally have a differing viewpoint on something. Make
Okay.
for
Oh,
some good
really?
conversation. This is the good thing about not talking much outside of
I
the
know.
pod is that we have some ripe conversation.
All right. Well,
Um,
you got the unpopular opinion.
I
So
know.
do you want me to go first and ease people in, or do you want to make people mad right off the bat here?
No, I hope that folks can take an open minded approach and see both sides. Um, and I know it's really easy to hear what I'm gonna say and be like, oh, you're just a Elias guy who just whatever he does is the almighty. Like that's not true. Like some of the stuff that Elias did, like how he handled it, like when he this is like the quote, he was going to elevate the payroll, he didn't do that. Like yeah, I was mad about that. I'm not like everything that Elias does, I'm not that kind of guy. But Holiday being left off the roster happened for a couple reasons. And granted, some of these reasons were avoidable, which take with a grain of salt, but I think the main one that he was left off the roster was because of his ability to hit left-handed pitching. Um, didn't do great last year in AAA. Had a rough go of it in spring. I know he had a homer off Kikuchi, who is a major league arm, and has had a pretty good big league career, but like he didn't really have much exposure to him in the spring. And when he did, obviously he had the one homer, but he also punched out a bunch of times. If you're going to call up the number one prospect in baseball, you're not going to want to shield him from lefties, especially when there's been such a fanfare around them, and every other team in the league is calling up their top guys. Like I get it, it's real. It really stings. But I think that this is only going to make him a better baseball player. I think it's going to make him want it more, right? Like, I would be very shocked if the dude went down to AAA to start the year and didn't start slashing some insane line. Like, I think that this is a really good thing for him. And I will acknowledge that, part of me did want Jackson Holliday to be up on the team, but I get it. He's going to get more work against lefties. He's going to get more reps at second base. And I think it'll just be overall, like, it's going to be a good move. Say what you want about service time manipulation. Like, sure, there could be some service time manipulation in there. But like the Orioles only lose from like keeping him down, right? Like they won't get the shot of, a pick later next year because like of the rookie of the year standings. Like there's a lot of things that hurt the Orioles here, and I think that they're really focusing on player development in this sense. But yeah, that's what I got on it. I definitely get the other side of wanting to see him up there and see what he can do. Get those reps at a high level and see that high level pitching in the majors. Lefties are few and far between in AAA, like good lefties, and I think that. It was broken down really well by Connor Newcomb on Locked On O's on the Monday episode. He kind of laid it all out. And I think that there's both pros and cons to it. But here I'm for a little stint in AAA at the start of the year.
So I'll say this. First of all, shout out Connor Newcomb, friend of the pod. But so I am upset that Holiday's not making the opening day roster. There's a lot of logic that surrounds why he's not making the opening day roster. I think you hit on it right there, where they really want to work on his left-handed, his ability to face left-handed pitching. Elias kind of touched on that too, and saying that when they're looking at their matchups the first couple weeks of the season, they're facing a lot of lefties. So they didn't want to throw him into a situation where he's debuting and not kind of getting instant success. I get that. I really do. I think there's also a logical sense there. Someone pointed out that he only played 18 games in AAA last year. So there is a lot more experience for him to work on things, to really perfect his craft. Like you said, I think it is going to drive him to work even harder. And he's going to really, really, spend the first probably couple months, I would say like a month and a half, maybe 2 months before he gets called off.
Greater than a month, probably a month.
Yeah.
I would, if I had to guess, it would be similar to what they did with Adley.
Yeah, probably. And yeah, like mid-May, end of May, maybe even June. I think he's gonna rake. I think he really is. Yeah. I think there's also something to be said, and granted, this is one of those things that you touched on that was kind of avoidable by the Orioles, and maybe they didn't handle it right, is, they kind of talked about, well, he hasn't gotten as many reps in playing second base, and so we want to give him more time playing second base to kind of perfect that. My difficulty with that is you already knew that you had Gunnar Henderson, who can play shortstop, as well as Jorge Mateo, who can play short. Like, you already knew that shortstop is too crowded. You knew that third base, Westberg can play third base, Reyes can play third base. You knew that third base was already crowded. The one position that has been a rotating, like, random guy playing every year has been second base. So if Jackson Holliday was going to come up and be a starter, it was second base. So why didn't you, when you realize this over the last year, why didn't you start playing him at second base more? So that argument doesn't hold a lot of weight with me.
Yeah. And I mean, like, part of that could be, he came up shortstop where he's comfortable. Like, you don't want to move the 19-year-old out of where he's comfortable, like, too quickly. So like I get why there might have been a little bit of lag there in starting him up at second base. Has a incredible offseason, right? Like we saw everything, we've talked about everything like that. Has an incredible offseason. And then he comes to camp, and now the Orioles are like, oh, damn, like he could probably play second base. Like maybe there wasn't as much confidence in him last year that he could play second base at a high level. And then he works all off season, and now boom, they think he's ready. Like,
I think too he progressed so much faster than they
yeah,
anticipated. I mean, the
yeah,
fact that he was in low A and they were like,
yeah,
"Oh, this isn't a challenge for him. Let's put him up to high A." And
yeah.
then high A wasn't a challenge for him. So they said, "Let's put him up to double A." And then double A wasn't a challenge for him. And then they put him up in triple A. And yeah, he came down to earth a little bit, there at the end of the year. But I mean, I do get it a little bit. Like, hey, like let's keep working on it. There's no rush. Like the team's already good. There's no rush to bring him up here. I get that. My thing is, I think you still, because you're where you are at, play your best players, man. Play your best players. I don't care about contract manipulation. I don't care about, oh, well, we want him to work on this one thing and all this stuff. Play your best players. Does he make the team better? That's the big question. I say yes, he does. Um, that being said, when he does make his debut this year, am I going to be at the yard? You betcha.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could
100%. I'm going to be there. I said make it opening day part 2. I hope everyone packs the yard. It's going to be, it's going to be a special moment when he does come up.
I think you could say the same thing, like staying on the topic of playing your best players, right? Like you could say that about a lot of these Orioles prospects down there, not just Jackson Holliday. Sure, Jackson Holliday is your best prospect, no doubt about it. But think about it, like how much time like Kobe Mayo's had down there, Connor Norby's had. Like you could stick him at third, move Westberg to second, and you automatically have a better infield than you did before, even without Jackson Holliday. So I think that there's a lot the Orioles could have done. Like I doubt that they're trying to manipulate Mayo and Norby's service time. So like you could have given that a ride. Like see how that went. I don't know, there was just a lot of things that they could have done. Obviously the thing that they did was not the thing that the public really wanted to see happen. They didn't want Tony Kemp.
Yeah, can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah, I don't really think anybody wanted Tony Kemp.
So news broke today because I like you, Jack, was probably thinking when they announced no Jackson Holliday, I was like, okay, so Colton Wong made the team.
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, we've cut Colton Wong.
Colton Wong opted out.
Or because he had an opt out if he didn't make the big league club.
Yeah.
So they were gonna send him to AAA, and he said no,
which
I was not surprised by at all.
No, and that's a smart career move for him.
Yeah. So then it was okay. So Tyler Nevin's gonna make the team.
Who is it down to? Nevin or?
It was Nevin or Maton.
Yeah.
And then they signed Kemp today, and to make room on the 40-man for Kemp, they DFA'd Maton.
Yeah.
And Kemp's contract is a major league contract. So he's going to be in the major leagues. He's probably making this team. I'm not going to lie, Jack. When they said, oh, yeah, Tony Kemp, I was like, who? Like, he hasn't been relevant for some time.
Yeah, I mean, he's bounced around for a bunch of teams. I think most recently he was on the A's.
On the Oakland A's. I have his stats here, just a little glimpse. 209 average, 5 home runs, 607 on base plus slugging. That was his 2023 with the Oakland A's.
Yeah, he's certainly a glove first kind of guy.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting, Jack? Do you know what team he was drafted by?
Tony Kemp, without looking it up?
Yeah.
The Astros.
Yeah. And do you know who drafted him?
Mike Elias.
Mike Elias. He's an Elias guy. Yeah. All right. Mike's doing a favor for one of his guys, man.
Oh, I don't know if we call it a favor. Maybe we could say he remembered something from when he was drafting him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we could unlock this again at 32 years old." Let's look at it that way.
Maybe he looked at his average and said, "Oh, he's got 0.009 better average than Tyler Nevin. So let's go with that." I don't know, man.
Kemp was on a team for spring training though, right?
I don't remember. I honestly don't know.
I
He
think he
might have been
was.
on the A's and got cut. I don't know.
Yeah, he was definitely on a team. So at least he's been like working out. I think he got cut like not pretty recently.
Yeah.
But
But I'll say this. An everyday left side of your infield of Westberg at second, Gunner at shortstop, and then Arias at third is still a pretty good infield.
yeah,
That's still a good infield.
it's a
I
infield
think
that won 101 games last year.
yeah. I think that's a good infield. I think an infield of Jackson Holliday at second, Gunnar Henderson at shortstop, and Jordan Westberg at third is an elite infield, but it's still a good infield. I guess our punt lineups are now going to include Tony Kemp as an infield outfield utility option. The
Yeah,
only thing I can think, Jack, this is what I think. I think Elias went out and got a guy to hold, keep the bench warm, come in, plug in here and there, who, when it is time for Jackson Holliday to come up, you can DFA him, no problem.
yeah,
There's not going to be concern of, oh, can we get something back for this guy? Let's not drop him. Let's make sure we trade him and get something for him. You're
yeah.
not going to do that with Tony Kemp. So this is a guy that as soon as Jackson's ready to go, he's going to be cut.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure. He's just kind of a warm body, right? And that's kind of been the tale for the last 3 years, finding some warm bodies with perhaps a little bit of promise to do anything, just be productive in any way. But Tony Kemp's not going to play much, especially with Cowser making the team. I think that's one of the guys I'm most excited to see play this year. See another shot with some regular ABs.
That man earned his spot, man. He
Absolutely.
earned his spot this spring, 100%. It was a battle for that fourth outfielder position, and Cowser earned that 1,000%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that he knows that Stowers was kind of chomping at his heels all spring. And, I I would guess that Cowser probably has some sort of a shorter leash than he did last year. I know last year he probably lasted 3 or 4 weeks before he was sent back down. And especially if Stowers starts off hot and Cowser doesn't, that could be a 1-for-1 switch pretty easily right there. But I do expect Cowser to kind of have a hotter start. He was up there last year, getting more acclimated to major league pitching and everything like that. I know we're gonna talk about it later, but keep my breakout Oreo under wraps for a little bit longer.
Well, and I think too. I mean, in addition to that, I know he didn't have a good spring, but Kerstad's still down there, man, and
Yeah,
Kerstad's going to get hot at some point, and when he starts getting hot, there's going to be that demand of, hey, can we bring Kerstad up?
yeah,
That outfield is going to be kind of this under pressure moment for those young guys of, hey, if you don't produce, we got plenty of guys behind you chomping at the bit to get in. So
absolutely. And
you got to
I think the top
produce.
one, not really an outfielder, but like Jackson Holliday, like it's still a roster spot that fourth, fifth utility outfielder takes up. So that could be another switch there too. So the
Well,
roster's pretty much set, man. Roster's pretty
yeah.
much set. Tyler Nevin did not win the waiting game of seeing if the Orioles would sign anybody. He will most likely start the year in AAA, if it hasn't already been said. He will start the year in AAA. And just kind of flying around like
Although I
pretty
think he's
similar.
out of options, so he might
Yeah.
if he doesn't clear waivers, he might go to another team. I don't know who's going to pick him up.
And somebody will definitely take a flyer on that spring batting average, spring performance.
Mm-hmm.
So just like flying around the roster real quick. I mean, it's for the most part pretty similar to last year. Remember that team that won 101 games? Catching position, like we talked about last week, Adley McCann's going to back him up. First base, Mountcastle and O'Hearn. O'Hearn can also play the outfield if he needs. Full just straight up infielders, not utility guys. Westberg, Henderson, and Urias. I know Urias was kind of waiting in the wings there to see if he was going to make the squad, or most likely be traded or start off in AAA. But he's going to make it. He is safe for a little while longer. Primary outfielders, from left to right: Hayes, Mullins, Santander, and then Kowser's your fourth outfielder. Expect Santander to probably do a lot of DH in this year, especially with Kowser out there. Obviously just a younger body, still pretty durable at this point in his career. Probably going to get more of those reps in right field, keep Santander off his feet. Maybe his power numbers will increase because of it. Who knows? And then your infield utility guys, Mateo and Tony Kemp. I know start of the year, people were kind of saying Mateo probably shouldn't be on the team, but I kind of like him as a safety blanket here.
It's a really good glove. It's a really,
really
really good glove. And that's speed. I mean, you
Real good set
cannot.
of legs on that guy.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is I don't think Mateo's going to see as much playing time as he did in years past. Certainly not as much as 2022.
Yeah, I think it'll be similar to what 2023 was, like towards the
Mhm.
back end after he cooled off from that incredible start in April.
Oh yeah,
And he was probably only playing 3 or 4 times a week. And he wasn't starting most of those games. It would be a pinch hit, pinch run, defensive replacement type beat.
I mean, you
But
put him in if you get to an extra inning game, you put him in at that second base ghost runner position. You're scoring. You
yeah,
just are.
yeah.
Um,
And I think a
so I am
prediction.
100% okay with Mateo being on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and like a prediction for him, like later down the line, could be, when those young guys in AAA are ready, like that could be the end of Mateo's tenure in Baltimore. Thinking, June, July, when the dog days start really setting in, you need some fresh bats in there. Like Mateo could be the first guy to go.
I don't know about that. I don't know. You got more faith in the Orioles just letting that speed go than I do. I don't think we see Jorge Mateo leave Baltimore until Enrique Badfield is ready to come to the majors, and that's a couple years out.
That's a good point. But like, think about like, those months are where World Series runs are defined, where playoff runs are defined. And you can't
I
have a guy batting 150. If he is batting 150, you can't have that. And I like to think that if the Orioles are really serious about getting a ring, this year, that they'll make that, I don't want to say, but like Holiday for Mateo switch at some point, right?
No, it's not going to be Mateo for Holiday. It's going to be Kemp. It's going to be Kemp. Kemp is so much worse than Mateo.
Yeah, I know. But like, think about somebody else. You got to make room for somebody, especially like if Connor or Kobe Mayo is batting
Well,
350 through 2 months with,
I mean,
but
it's going to come down to one of those again. I mean, we talked about it last week. Who do you want to get more consistent bats? Who do you want on your bench who can fill in here and there? I think Mateo as a bench guy is fine. I think it's totally fine.
yeah,
I'm not advocating for him to play every single day, but where he fills in, he's got a great glove, and using him as a pinch runner, I think that pinch running is a game changer. I mean, imagine eighth inning, tie up ball game or 1-run game, and Anthony Santander gets on, and you say, Jorge Mateo, go in and pinch run for Anthony Santander. That's a game changer right there.
mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot more value to Jorge Mateo than what you're giving him.
Sorry, that was end of the year last year. Jack seeping through.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's okay. We said before we're allowed to disagree.
Yeah, for sure. And those are our position guys. Pitching staff's been pretty set in stone for the last couple of weeks. Bradish is not going to be ready for opening day, obviously, as well as John Means. Hoping to see them in a couple months, call in the reinforcements, so to speak. But your starting 5 on opening day and for at least the first 2 months of the season are going to be Corbin Burns at the top. Bona fide ace, has proved it. Doesn't need to prove anymore except for another Cy Young under his belt. Grayson Rodriguez is going to be your 2. Take your pick at 3 or 4 for Wells and Kramer. And then Cole Irvin, who is looking for some resurgence in 2024 is going to be your 5. Um, who do you think could surprise you out of those 5?
Um, I think out of those 5, I think Cole Irvin could surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that increase in velocity that he had, is no joke. I don't think that's a fluke.
Hmm.
He said that he worked with Pitching Ninja,
Hmm.
uh, over the off season, so he took it seriously.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy who I don't know that he's gonna end up being a starter for a majority of the year. I don't think he probably will. Um, but I think he's a guy who's got the drive now and says, "I want that. I really, really want that." So I think he's gonna work that much harder. So I think he could if you're asking me who's gonna surprise us, I think Cole Irvin's gonna surprise
Yeah.
us. If you're
And I
asking me
think,
who's gonna be really good on this rotation, well, it's gonna be Burns and Grayson
yeah.
Rodriguez are gonna be really
Yeah.
good.
No, I mean, those are givens, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know what Burns is about, you know what Grayson's about. Like, you're two really solid 1-2 guys. And I think Burns being in the rotation is going to take a lot of heat off of Grayson. I mean, expectations were high last year, and I mean, I'm not in the mind of Grayson Rodriguez, but that's a lot of pressure to have, especially when you're making your big league debut. Like, you're expected to be the guy of the staff.
Especially he made his debut because of an injury.
Yeah.
They were gonna keep him down a little bit longer, and then Bradish got hit in the foot by a ball, and they said, "Okay, Grayson, you're up."
Yeah. Right. So I think like having Burns to be that guy is going to allow Grayson to really get working on what he's got. Another exciting little thing he's working on. I believe it was a two seamer. He
Mhm.
was on the Just Baseball show a couple weeks ago talking about kind of developing some new pitches. And two seam was at the top of the list. I know he mentioned in the interview that he was talking to Corbin Burns about different pitch grips. Which is phenomenal for the whole staff to be able to bounce ideas off of Burns for grips, whatever. So that could be something to look out for. But I think that like my breakout candidate for this rotation could be Tyler Wells, man. I mean, think about the start of the year that he had last year in the starting role. I mean, he was nails for the first couple months of the season, kind of ran out of steam in the middle parts. I don't see how he couldn't learn from that last year, right? Like do all the right training regimens in the offseason to make sure that that doesn't happen when he hits 75 to 100 innings around there. Um, and we could see a different version of Tyler Wells this year where he doesn't run out of steam and he continues that solid like 3 guy that we were expecting to see towards the latter parts of last year. Um, yeah, so I think that's probably my pick for a breakout pitcher, and of course we could see John Means resurgence. Come June when he comes back, like saw flashes of it towards the end of the season last year. Could see some good stuff from him again, and then Cole Irvin, like you said, could be a given as well.
Well,
Um,
and John Means, they're talking he's gonna go ahead and already start his rehab starts in Norfolk. We could
yeah,
see him as early as end of April, beginning of May. So
which would be wonderful.
you're giving him till June, which I think is a little bit of a pessimistic look. It is a little weird with Bradish and Means, because Hyde said something like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna see them in the first half of the season," and then I think Elias kind of came in behind him and was like, "Well, we're gonna see them early in the first half of the season."
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's pretty tough. Like Elias has been wrong a couple times. And Hyde is probably gonna say stuff that comes down from the front office.
mhm.
Or maybe he wasn't. Who really knows? Like in baseball right now, there's so many organizations that are ran from the top down, not at a equal level.
Yeah.
So who really knows what's going on? Um, over to the bullpen. Um, I would say, Dylan Tate is a huge addition to this bullpen. Other than that, it's pretty much the same, just swapping out Bautista for Kimbrel. But just going down the list, Jacob Webb, Dylan Tate, CNL Perez, Danny Coulomb, Yenyer Cano, Mike Bauman, who had a good spring, Keegan Aiken, and then Craig Kimbrel. Um, I think that this bullpen is going to be like they're going to win us games, especially 7th, 8th innings. It's going to be a matter of what Craig Kimbrel we get. Do we get Philadelphia playoffs Craig Kimbrell, or do we get lights out Atlanta Braves Craig Kimbrell? It's
Did you
it's
see? Did you see the video of Craig Kimbrell the other day pitching?
no.
He apparently, the caption was that for the first time in his career, he threw a changeup.
Yeah,
Struck
yeah,
out
I
one of
think
his Philly teammates who was just sitting there like, "What?
yeah. So
What
he
was
punched
that?"
out Stott, and I think that there was a little behind the scenes banter going on. Like, don't expect him to throw a changeup ever in an Orioles uniform. Other than that,
But if he
one
added a changeup, wouldn't that be incredible?
it'd be money.
What,
It'd
15th
be
year in
money.
the season, and suddenly you add a new pitch?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess it's not out of the question. That thing was nasty. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be the cornerstone of this bullpen, next to Cano. Like, obviously, it's going to hurt not having Bautista. It's going to
Yeah,
hurt not having
yeah.
the best closer in baseball.
Well, that's why you went out and got a better starter, right? That's
Yeah,
why you went out and got Corbin Burns to put you in better positions with your bullpen. You seem like you have a lot more confidence in this bullpen as it stands right now than I do. Keegan Aiken scares the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I feel like that's the one guy where it's like, is this going to work?
Cianel Perez, it depends, kind of like what you were saying about Kimbrel. Like, it depends what Cianel Perez we're getting. Are we getting first half last year Cianel Perez, who was god awful?
Yeah,
Are we getting last half Cianel Perez, who was striking guys out on 3 fastballs in a row? Like,
absolutely. I
you
like to
know,
think that the Orioles have learned from their mistakes, right? Like, what shifted halfway through the season with Perez that made him go from, awful, like no confidence when he comes in the game, to wow, this guy's been nails. Like, this is just like 2022 where he was nails the whole year. So
right.
like, keep that same, tweaks that he made or whatever during the middle of the season. Maybe it was like a confidence thing. Who knows? But make sure that you do the exact same things that got him going good, and make a habit of sending him in that direction, like right from the get-go this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that in mind, Jack, as we are now sitting currently 2 days away from opening day, possibly 3 depending on weather, I think it's time to predict how we think the year's going to go. Not just with the Orioles, but also across the league. So I want to start with, you don't have to give me the rankings for every division, but who do you think is going to be a division champion? And we're going to start in the National League and work our way towards the Orioles. So we're going to start in the National League West. Who do you think is going to win that?
Yeah, I mean, the regular season merchants. I mean, it's hard to say anything against the Los Angeles Dodgers this year. They are favored very heavily to win the National League West. They are minus 600 on FanDuel to win the National League West. It's probably not going to be much of a competition. I hope that something crazy happens. Weirder things have happened in this sport. So my pick's obviously the Dodgers, but I hope it's not. So I hope something happens.
Jack, I like a good underdog story. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers as well.
Good.
I don't know how you can pick against them. I think the
Yeah.
only thing that could derail them is this whole Ohtani betting scandal thing. If that really does fall on his face and suddenly Ohtani's out of the league for whatever reason, I think that could fall on their face. But then again, you look at everyone else that is on the Dodgers team, even without Ohtani, they're a powerhouse.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question in anyone's mind that they're winning the NL West.
Yeah.
Moving to the Central, who do you think is going to win that NL Central? This one's a lot harder, I think.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the hardest one that we talk about for the whole league. The Cardinals made a lot of offseason acquisitions, some good, some kind of head scratchers, but they're better than they were last year. I can say that wholeheartedly, that their pitching staff is going to do much better than they did last year. Remember, they still have some of the best corner infielders in the game in Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, as well as a lot of exciting young guys coming up to play some infield for them. So where they are favored to win the division at plus 150, the Cubs and the Reds are not far behind them. I think a really good sleeper pick would be the Cincinnati Reds. Um, they're at plus 400 right now. They showed flashes of what they can do last year, but they just didn't have all the pieces quite there yet. This year, I think that they have a lot more pieces. They made a couple of free agent acquisitions. Ellie De La Cruz will have a full season to work with, Matt McLean as well. Just a lot of dudes over there that could make this division race really exciting down the stretch. Chicago Cubs, obviously don't count them out. They make a couple catches, some balls dropped their way last year. They're in the playoffs. So it's not out of the question that they could also make a run at the NL Central. Personally, my pick, Cincinnati Reds.
I think you make a lot of good points. I think this is the toughest division in the National League to predict who's going to win. It really is kind of anyone's race. Even looking at the Pirates. I mean, the Pirates got off to a great start last year, kind of got derailed, but they're getting guys back. They could suddenly, instead of having a 2-month span where they're really good, they could have a 3 or 4 month span where they're really good, and then suddenly they're right there in that race. Also, don't forget about the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, the Brewers, they traded away Corbin Burns, but they got DL Hall and Joey Ortiz. They had a gap to fill at shortstop. They filled it. They needed a up and coming starting pitcher. They got it. I don't know if DL Hall's announced as a starter for them yet, but I know they were trying him out for it. And if not, if he goes to the bullpen, he's still a great bullpen arm. Other than that, I don't know of a ton of changes that the Brewers made. So, I mean, they could make it a race. I think if you had to twist my arm and tell me to pick one team to win the NL Central, I'm gonna pick the Cubs, and I don't know why. I honestly don't. Dude. I don't think I have one thing to point to the Cubs where I'm like, this is why I'm picking the Cubs. I don't know. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the Cubs.
Straight gut pick. I like it. I like it. And we're gonna get more into this later, but while we're on the topic, I think a really good value pick on the betting side of baseball. The Reds at plus 400 to win the division. There's a lot of value there. I don't really like the Cardinals at plus 150. I would like to see a little bit more value there. Because they could blow up and lose, and then you just have a no value pick. So I think the best bet there is the Reds at plus 400.
All right, moving to the National League East. Who you got there, Jack?
Yeah, so the National League East, another kind of runaway division, but I think that this has a much better chance of being a closer race than the NL West. The Atlanta Braves are favored to win the division at minus 280. They brought back a lot of dudes this year. Obviously, Acuna coming off his MVP season. Strider is favored to win the Cy Young. Just kind of a lot of dudes over there that are going to make it tough for other teams to come back. Philadelphia Phillies are next at plus 280 to win the division. I don't hate them. Like the Phillies are going to be good. Like they're going to be around. They're probably going to grab one of those wild card spots. They just have too many big names to not win over 85 games and sneak into a wild card spot. But I just don't see them beating out the Braves. I know that they beat them in the playoffs the past couple of years, but they'll probably just keep doing that as a wild card team. New York Mets, plus 1,300. Marlins at plus 3,500. I was kind of surprised by that the Mets were more favored than the Marlins to make the playoffs too, just in general. I kind of like the Marlins as a sleeper pick, not for the division. Not for the division at all. Don't get it twisted. But the Marlins have much more promise than I think that Vegas is giving them. Just on the pitching standpoint, I know Yuri Perez might be shelved for the foreseeable future, but they still got Luzardo. They made a couple acquisitions for some bats. So we'll see what they can do. Nationals, exciting core. It's going to be fun to watch some of those guys play this year, but try again next year.
Yeah, I think the Nationals are so kind of looking like the 2021 Orioles, maybe 2022. They might be closer to 2022. They'll be fun, but they're not going to win anything.
Got to remember what the Orioles projections were for 2022. So
that's true.
Could get weird.
I think you're right. I mean, this is pretty much a lock to say that the Atlanta Braves are probably going to win this division. Phillies are still going to be good, but the Phillies just didn't do enough for me in the offseason to really feel like they were going to an improve. They felt like they kind of were keeping a steady where they were. They were happy with where they were, which I
I
mean,
think it,
a year before of making it to the World Series and then making it to the NLCS, why wouldn't you be comfortable that you got a
yeah.
good team there?
Yeah,
Um,
I think that there are big question marks in the bullpen. Didn't really retain a lot of guys in their bullpen. Didn't really make any additions in their bullpen. Still some guys in there that'll win them some games, but like I'm not confident once Wheeler gives you 7 innings, the 1 or 2 earned runs that lead's gonna hold.
right.
Especially when you're playing teams like the Braves a bunch. Um, my pick's also probably going to be the Braves. It's honestly it's a hesitant pick for the Braves. Like I just like you were with the Cubs. Something about the Braves just like they get late in the season and just things kind of implode. Um, but their pitching is going to be better than last year. I'm taking the Braves.
Yeah, I think I'm taking the Braves as well. Which moves us over to the American League, starting with the L West.
AL West. This is the tough one. Not as hard as the NL Central, but still going to be a pretty good race. Out the gate, Astros are favored to win the division and fend off the reigning World Series champs. They're at -115. Texas Rangers coming up second at +210 to win the division. And as I am saying these words, Jordan Montgomery has signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Whoa, big news, breaking news right here on the show.
Big
Not
breaking
with the
news.
Yankees, specifically, did not sign with the Yankees.
You heard it here first. UPod Street broke the news that Jordan Montgomery signed with that. Dude, that honestly, like, Diamondbacks can make a
Diamondbacks
run
start
at it.
looking a lot better.
I like that for them. That's a good pickup.
The Snakes?
Nice. I wonder what he's going to get.
Ooh, good
Good for
question.
them. Anyways,
Yeah.
coming in third in the AL West, according to Las Vegas, Seattle Mariners at +300. Um, I don't like that, dude. That seems like a trap. That seems like a trap. I feel like they should be a lot higher. And the odds sort of they didn't really do anything in the offseason. If
No,
anything, they
missed the playoffs
subtract.
and then didn't do anything.
Yeah, I feel like they subtracted, if anything. Like they lost Suarez. I mean, they added some utility guys in the infield, but like what changed? Like Brian Wu is going to be out. He's going to miss opening day with an elbow injury. That's another arm that's gone already.
I think a lot of
Um,
people like to put the Mariners at higher expectations than what they probably should be because
yeah,
specifically just because of Julio.
yeah, yeah, and like I mean, they do have some dudes over there. Like Rodriguez is a dude, George Kirby's a dude. They have a really good bullpen. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like where they are on the odds. I think that's too low. And then I think like just going off that, like a best bet here, their win totals at 87 and a half. I think a really good play there could be the under.
Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
see them winning 87 games.
87 and a half, like it's pretty high for a
I see
team
them
there.
being a 500 team. I see them doing 82 wins or 81 wins. 81's 500, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think them going under 87 is not crazy. Or being at 87 wins, like that's not crazy at all. And I think if anything, they'll be more like 84, 85. So that's one of my best bets. Mariners under. The rest of the AL West, Angels, Athletics, don't really even need to give them any screen
You,
time
you don't think a sleeper athletics pick is gonna?
at plus 25,000.
Hey, that could be a big payout.
That'd be a big payout. Um, I don't know. This is going to be a close division race. I like the Rangers here, man. At +210, I like the Rangers a lot. They're cooking over there. Wyatt Langford making the opening day roster. Um, get some DeGrom this year towards the middle of the season. I think they'll probably honestly have more wins than they did last year.
I'm gonna go with the Houston Astros. I think when it comes down to it, I think the Rangers, while still really good, they're gonna suffer a little bit from a World Series hangover.
Yeah.
I think I think it's for an organization that is not used to winning World Series. I think the expectations are going to be super high, and I think the
Yeah.
pressure is going to be really high for some of those players. Of like, oh, we just did this, we have to do it again, right? Um, Whereas the Astros have been there every freaking year for the last 7 years or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they're
Um,
done.
I cannot pick against the Astros. I think it's going to be a close race. I mean, it was last year too. It was a
Yeah.
close race last year. But I just think the Astros just handle that a little bit better than the Rangers probably will.
Yeah. The AL Central. Our last out of division race. Minnesota Twins come out of the gate favored to win the American League Central at minus 130, followed by the Cleveland Guardians at plus 320, Detroit Tigers plus 380. That was kind of going to be like my sleeper pick this year. Like I was in like December, January. I was like, oh, the Tigers. Like I need to get on them quick before Vegas finds out about them. But Vegas found out about them. They're at plus 380. Their win total was not really playable, to be honest. Kansas City Royals are in fourth. Made a lot of moves in the offseason. Exciting to see a full season of Cole Reagans. Bobby Witt after a big extension. So we'll see. We'll see what they can do. I mean, again, another team that showed some flashes last year, but didn't really have the record to prove it. I expect them to finish with a lot more wins than they did last year. That's for sure. But not really coming close to the division title. Chicago White Sox, dumpster fire. Dumpster fire. They need to get Robert out of there.
Yeah, it's for a lot of reasons. The AL Central to me is the most frustrating division in baseball because we play in the most competitive division in baseball. And if we played in the AL Central, we would cruise to a division championship every year.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the Twins do. Like they don't have to try a whole lot during the regular season and they win the division. I like the up and comers like you talked about with the Tigers. I like the moves that Kansas City was doing where they're kind of like, okay, we got our guy for the future, and now we're gonna go out and get a bunch of guys to put around him.
Yeah.
I like the moves. I don't think they're there yet. So I think, once again, Twins are gonna win that division. Who knows what they'll do? I mean, they had a great wild card series last year, kind of fell apart against the Astros, but I think it's a pretty clear cut. The Twins win the division once again.
Is it clear cut though?
I think it's clear cut.
Clear cut? Is it clear cut with a new era of baseball in Detroit?
You're really trying to get me on this Detroit train, but I am not picking Detroit, man.
Detroit Tigers plus 380. Bucket.
All right. So Jack's picking the Tigers. I'm picking the Twins. Which brings us home. Brings us to the American League East.
Yes, it
Break
does.
it down, Jack.
So, according to Vegas, I mean, this is your most highly contending race. New York Yankees are favored at plus 165 to win the division, followed by the Orioles at plus 200. Blue Jays in third at plus 380, followed by the Rays at plus 500. I mean, this has got to be one of the lowest spots that the Rays have started in the last 5 years. Boston Red Sox plus 1900. I think you can really only X out the Red Sox out of this conversation. And even that's a hard one to X out too, because I mean they have some guys that have broken camp with them that that are going to be pretty good. The only issue is that they have to play the Yankees, Orioles, Jays, and Rays the most. Which it's a tough schedule. And I mean, you got to be able to win against those teams to kind of keep yourself in that division race. So they're probably out right off the start. And the rest of it's just kind of tough, man. Obviously, like you know what our picks are gonna be, right? Like we're both picking the Orioles here. And
Don't
I
speak
think
for me, Jack. Don't speak for me. But I am picking the Orioles.
I was like, what is he doing? Does he want us to lose viewers here? No, but I mean it's gonna be a fun race. It's gonna be the most intense that the AL East has been in a while, and that's after last year. I think all the top flight teams in this division improved. Obviously, the Orioles improved. The Yankees did nothing but pretty much improve. They got Juan Soto. So that's a big improvement right there. I mean, Toronto Blue Jays, they improved a little bit. We'll see if we see Ricky Tiedemann at any point this year. But I mean, they still got dudes over there. I don't think Vlad Jr. is going to have a season like he did last year. Bo Bichette, I mean, it's hard to bet against that guy. Tampa Bay, I mean, they're just still banged up, man. Their rotation's just still banged up. Once they get those guys back, they'll be legit again. But yeah, I think that it's the Orioles, Yankees. It's going to be a close race right up until the end of the season, just like it was last year with the Rays. Who knows? Maybe a third team's in the mix, but I know that the Orioles are going to pull away with this one.
I'm gonna go a slightly different route than you, Jack. Yes, I'm still picking the Orioles. However, I don't think it's going to be as close of a race as a lot of people are predicting it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yes, the Yankees added Juan Soto. But now with Jordan Montgomery off of the board, who's pitching for the Yankees? Garrett Cole's out for the first 2 months. They lost Domingo Germán. They still got Carlos Rodon, but he was hurt all last season. Who knows if he's going to come back and be the guy that he was in San Francisco? I mean, hell, there's people talking about like, hey, maybe we got to have pitching tryouts before each game and bring some random bozo in to pitch for the Yankees. I'm not saying the Yankees are going to be bad. I certainly expect them to compete for the division. I just don't think that they're the powerhouse everyone's thinking there. Everyone's looking at Juan Soto and being like, that's it. They're winning the division. I don't think so. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think Juan Soto helps them, but I think they have a big question mark looking at their pitching right now, which is what everyone always says about the Orioles. Everyone's like, well, the Orioles would be good if they had pitching. Right now, the Yankees would be good if they had pitching.
The thing about it is like the Yankees still have like good names in their rotations. Sure, they're probably not the same as they were X amount of years ago. Like just pulling up the roster resource, Nestor Cortez is going to be their one to start opening day. He was banged up last year. Yeah. Carlos Rodon.
There's a lot of guys on this Yankees team too that are aging out.
Yeah.
I mean, Giancarlo Stanton, number one, right there, right?
Right. Stanton, 34. Rizzo's 30, almost 35. I mean, other than that, like it's pretty young. But like their pitching staff, Rodon's 31 and had a down year last year. Stroman's just about to turn 33. And honestly, who knows what he's going to do this year?
I mean, Stroman, so he can be really good. He can have some certainly bad games. I mean, it looked like for a while last year, like, oh, he was going to be the big trade guy, and then he started to struggle a little bit, and then nobody traded for him. And,
yeah.
I don't know what to expect out of Stroman, especially under the bright lights of New York.
And then Clark Schmidt, first round pick back in 2017. He's going to be there 4. And then Luis Gil, who has really only accumulated 1 year of service time, and he's been in the league for 6-ish years. No, 9. He signed in 2015.
So I just, with all that in mind, I don't think the Yankees are this lock to win the division that everybody outside of Orioles fans believe they are going to be. I have a lot less faith in the Blue Jays than you have. I think this is a team that locked into their players early on and they had a really good window of really good players for a while. And I think they're losing a lot of momentum. It seems like every year they're losing more and more momentum. I didn't see them make enough moves this year for me to go like, you know what? that's a team that, yes, they're going to challenge the division. You know what the Orioles' record was against the Blue Jays last year? I think it was like 8-3 or something like
It's
that.
very
We
good.
dominated the Blue Jays last year, and they did nothing to make me go, oh, you know what? I'm going to be scared about facing the Blue Jays this year. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. The Rays are going to be in it because the Rays are always in it. I mean, their farm system is so deep that you can never count the Rays out. But I don't think that, the Glasnow trade to me still is puzzling. I know that they got some good guys back for it, but like you traded away your best pitcher. And I just don't see the return being where it was worth it to me. They lost their shortstop. Wander Franco is, in some prison in the Dominican
Yeah.
Republic now, for all of his crimes. And they had locked him in for what, like a 12-year deal. Like,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think
it was
there's
a
a
lot.
lot of losses on this Rays team, and you already talked about it too. They're banged up on top of all that.
Yeah.
They'll compete, but I don't see them coming close to the division this
Yeah.
year. They're not going to get off to a 13-0 start like they did last year. That's what kept them in the division race for so long. They started off
Yeah.
13-0.
And they just kept winning. They just kept
Yeah,
winning like games, like 3-2 games. Like they would hit enough and pitch just enough to win ball games. Do they
but that's
have
a
that
hard
now
thing
this
to
year?
sustain. That's a
Yeah.
really hard thing to sustain.
I mean, they can
Um,
keep spawning guys from the pitching lab like all they want. Like, do they have the offense to do it? Like they traded away one of their top prospects in Manzardo for Savali, who may or may not be good this year. Like the offense is just it's not exciting.
so I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna say the Orioles win the division, and I don't think it's as close as everybody thinks it's going to be.
I mean, you made a good like argument about it, and I don't think it would be crazy to see a runaway with it.
I'm not gonna call it a runaway, but I don't think it's gonna be a nail biter down to the last weekend in baseball like it
How
was
many
last year.
games? How many games?
How many games do we win by?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna say 6. 6
Okay.
games.
It's respectable.
That's a week of baseball right there.
Yeah. And to close out our show tonight, we're just gonna quickly run through some of our predictions, season long bets that you could perhaps make. Of course, as always, gamble responsibly. I feel like it's a given. Just need to say it. But
Don't be
like running
Shohei
through,
Ohtani.
yeah, please. Running through some of the player accolades off the top for MVP in the American League. Gunnar Henderson, I think, was probably like 10th favored to win at plus 1,800. I like those. I like where that line is a lot. I think plus 1,800 is a perfect amount of value for like just the straight up volatility that guy has, and he could churn out any kind of numbers he wants. Adley's at plus 2,500 for MVP. Throw a couple bucks on it if you want. I don't know. Don't really feel great about a catcher winning an MVP. It's been done very seldomly. I like that Gunner pick though. I think I'm gonna put that in. Corbin Burns on the other side is actually favored now that Garrett Cole is out to win the American League Cy Young at plus 800. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
When's the last time we had a pitcher that was favored to win a Cy Young award?
Been a long time.
Probably since Mangina.
Probably. I mean, I'm taking that for sure. At plus 800, I don't think you can go wrong there. Sure, Corbin's been down since his last Cy Young. Put him in a bigger ballpark, right? More dudes around him. He's going to have more wins. Cy Young voters love wins. So, I would only expect the ERA to go down. I think plus 800, really good line for him. Take that in a heartbeat. If you want a long shot pick, Grayson's at 2,300. Not as confident in that one. Just injury history, consistency history. I don't think it's that great of a pick. Rookie of the year, Jackson Holliday, not favored in first. I think he was third. He's at plus 470.
Is that after he didn't make the opening day roster?
Correct. That is as of an hour ago.
Okay.
That is as of an hour ago. I think Langford was in front of him as well as Evan Carter. It's just going to be tough for him not starting the year with the club. 470 is also not a great value. Be careful on that one. The Orioles to win the World Series, of course. You know, these are fun, like the season-long ones. Make the playoffs, American League, whatever. I think the only one that really has a ton of value this year is for them to win the World Series, and that's at plus 1,400. It's a homer pick, but, you know, can't feel bad about throwing a couple bucks on the World Series winner Baltimore Orioles. As we said earlier in the show, winning the AL East is at plus 200. I think, you know, throw one in. Why not?
Throw a
Not
couple
a lot of
bucks.
value there, though.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the big one right here. Season win totals at 89.5. And this is on the heels of a year where the Orioles won 101 games.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, when I looked at that, probably about a month or so ago, Vegas is favoring the over, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I think it was at minus 115, where the under was minus 102.
Not a ton of value there.
No, but I mean, when you look at the season-long win totals, there's never any plus money there unless you're talking about like the Nats to go over. Like,
Well,
I mean,
last year, remember they picked the Orioles at like 77 wins, and that was an easy over. And a lot of people made a lot of money off that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 89.5 is still pretty low. Still pretty low
Yeah.
for a team that brought back almost all of its core, or if not improved its core. I think that's a no-brainer over for me. I think full confidence, I would tell somebody to take that over. Just kind of ones that stood out to me. Not necessarily ones that I would subscribe for anybody to put any money on. But Gunnar Henderson's season-long home run total is at 27.5. I think that if he hits that many home runs, he's going to be in any MVP talks. But I mean, it's a pretty lofty line. If I, gun in my head, got a bet on this, I would take the over.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the over for sure. I mean,
when we get to my bold predictions, I've got something about Gunnar and home runs.
There you go. Strikeout numbers, Corbin Burns, 200.5 is his line. I don't really have a good feel for pitching props, but I just wanted to throw him in there. Grayson's at 172.5. And then the last kind of fun one, Cedric Mullins, stolen bags, 26.5.
The big question there is it going to be a healthy Cedric Mullins this year?
Yeah. If it is, he's going to smash 26.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? And yeah, that's like all the Orioles props we're looking at. But here's our personal predictions coming up.
All right. Let's start it off, Jack, with the Orioles record. What do you have? What do you have for the Orioles win total this year?
I don't think it's going to be very far off from 101. If not, it'll be more.
You think it's going to be more than 101?
Dude, I mean, obviously baseball's a weird sport, but we're bringing back everybody. We've proved Corbin Burns is going to generate more wins than, some of those bullpen days that we had. Like, those bullpen days turned into wins, right?
Yeah.
Offense is obviously better with the subtraction of I'm going to rescind that statement. But you think about the young guys that could come up halfway through the season and provide more offensive prowess, or maybe we make a trade halfway through the year that could generate more wins. I think we're only going to generate more wins. Like, this team is too solid to decline that much. I think if anything, we'll be in the range of 99 to 103 wins.
So I'm picking 98 wins. And the reason is, yes to everything you just said. That's what's going to keep us in the upper end of wins in Major League Baseball. However, I do believe that one thing needs to be said about how the Orioles won a lot of games last year, and that was Felix Bautista dominated the league. And I have more faith in Craig Kimbrell than a lot of people do. But Craig Kimbrell is not going to do what Felix Bautista did last year.
That is a good
And
point.
so that's why I think we're going to dip a little bit. But I think 98 wins is still going to be enough to win us the division.
Yeah, for sure. And a great point was brought up by Flex Pie on X.
Flex PA.
Flex PA. I'm always just used to saying pie. Like the division did get better, right? And I definitely just forgot to take that into consideration in the win total prediction. So 98 is probably a little bit more realistic. Yeah, 90 is still great though. It's a division winner.
How do you think the season ends for the Baltimore Orioles?
Like after the postseason?
Yeah, I'm talking like whatever the last pitch is for the Orioles. What is it? Is it a World Series victory? Is it a loss in the playoffs? What is it?
That's such a loaded question, right? Like,
well, it's meant to be.
Yeah, for sure. Like you want to say like right off the jump, no, they're gonna win the World Series. I think this team is definitely good enough to win the World Series. And I think that's reflected on, preseason outlooks. Any publication has the Orioles in the top 5 power rankings right now. Like gut feeling, not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think we get to the ALCS. And then from there, it's hard to say. And I'll leave it at that.
You and me both. So that's what I have. I have the Orioles getting to ALCS. I hope they get past that. I just don't know. I think we've been burned too much as Orioles fans, Jack, to really sit here and confidently be like, oh yeah, they're totally winning the World Series. But I can see them making the ALCS.
Not saying that's a stopping point.
No, not at all.
Just leaving it at that.
Who is your most valuable Oriole this year, do you think?
You first.
I'm picking Gunnar.
Gunnar?
Yeah, I think Gunnar's going to have a huge sophomore year.
And we're just talking position players, right? We're saving Cy Youngs.
You can make it the same as your Cy Young if you want. This is just who the most valuable Oriole is.
Dang. It's a tough one. I want to pick like obviously yes, Gunnar Henderson probably, Adley Rutschman probably. I think
gun to your head. Adley.
Adley's my gut pick.
He's gonna repeat as MVO.
Adley's my gut pick, just because like he had a really good year last year,
and he's only gonna get better.
Like this offseason, like he's really cemented himself as top 3 catcher in baseball.
Most would say top 1.
Yeah, top 1. I think he's top 1 personally, but like I think like the home run totals are gonna tick up, RBI totals are gonna tick up. Probably gonna punch out a bit less. So I could see him like really making a run at most valuable Oriole.
And Oriole Cy Young?
Corbin Burns.
Lock it in.
Don't need to say much more.
Yeah.
But Grayson, I do expect Grayson to have a really good season.
So who do you think your breakout player is going to be this year?
Colton Cowser.
Ooh, nice. Picking the 4th outfielder. I like that.
I really think that he's going to play a lot more outfield than we think, just to get Santander off his feet more. So I think with everyday at bats, of course, there is the possibility for regression or not much improvement from when he was up last year. But I got a feeling about him, man.
I like that pick. This one's going to seem a little silly for me, but like, let me explain. I think Grayson is your breakout player this year.
No, it's not silly.
Well, I think it sounds silly because people are like, well, yeah, he's already good, but he was good for the second half of last year.
Yeah.
And I think he's only going to improve upon that second half of last year. And I think that Cy Young odds to me on Grayson plus 2,300. I mean, I think it could be better odds than that. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like I really think Grayson's gonna show why he was for so long the number one pitching prospect in baseball this
Yeah.
year. I expect Grayson to have a really good year. Last year, I picked Kyle Bradish to be the breakout player for the Orioles. I picked him to have a really good year, and he did. His sophomore year was phenomenal, top 5 in Cy Young voting. I think Grayson Rodriguez is right up there for this year. I think he's going to have a really, really good year this year, and he's going to cement himself as like, yes, I am the future of this rotation.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's your biggest surprise for this year? Who do you think your biggest surprise is going to be? I can go first if you need time to think.
Please.
I'm picking Craig Kimbrell.
It's a good
I
one.
think I think Kimbrell's going to surprise a lot of people. I think people think he's washed. You brought it up. Are we going to get Phillies in the postseason Craig Kimbrell, or are we going to get Atlanta Craig Kimbrell? I think this might be his last dance, man. I think it might be his last dance, and I think he's going to go out there. He's going to give it all he can. I'm not saying he's going to put up Felix numbers, but I do think he's going to put up a lot better numbers than people expect. I'm saying 30 saves. And if he
Not
can
bad.
give us 30 saves, that's pretty good. I mean, Felix was at like 40 when he got hurt. So,
Yeah.
I'll take 30
Yeah.
saves out of Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest surprise is it's like pretty uber specific, but Anthony Santander in the playoffs, in the 2024 playoffs. I'm calling it here, March 26, 2024. Anthony Santander is going to have a 3-homer ALDS.
Ooh, I like that. I like that pick. Good old Tony
Hello.
Taters.
If he's
Who do
still
you
in the
think is going to have the biggest regression?
I mean, he already kind of regressed last year a lot, but Ryan Mountcastle, just battling through injuries. I mean, you got to feel for him. But I don't know. It's gonna be a tough year for him. Like people are knocking on the door to get those first base reps and those reps at the plate as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he regresses a little bit. And he's not the everyday guy at the end of the year.
I'm going to pick Yanir Cano.
That is a very fair pick.
I think Cano surprised a lot of people in the league. He wasn't on anyone's radar last year. I mean, when he came up, everyone was like, "Who is this again?" Oh yeah, we got him in this trade for Jorge Lopez. Like, okay, and he just kind of came out of nowhere and was awesome.
Yeah.
And then he started to slow down a little bit as the league caught up to him. I don't hope that he regresses. I mean, I love Yanir Cano.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to depend a lot how he trained this offseason, how he prepared this offseason to get ready for a league that's catching up on him and getting a lot more intel on him.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably going to be the biggest regression for the team.
For sure. No, it's very fair. I think it's kind of a like do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again
exactly.
and I'll believe you.
Exactly. Finally, do you have any bold predictions for the year?
I don't know if this is bold. I mean, it is kind of bold, but it also would make sense that Jackson Holliday does not get called up when everybody wants him to. I think he's going to be more of a June, July kind of guy.
Okay. I'm going to make a bold prediction right here, Jack, that there will be 4 players on the Baltimore Orioles that hit over 25 home runs. 2 hit over 30.
Nice.
I'm going to pick Ryan Mountcastle to hit 25 home runs. You have little faith. I'm picking. He's my guy. I'm picking him.
I don't remember what stadium we play in.
I know. But when he's on, man.
Sure.
I am picking Adley Rutschman to hit 25 home runs.
Okay.
Anthony Santander, I think is going to hit 30, 31 home runs. And I think Gunnar Henderson hits 33 home runs.
So you're smashing that over.
I'm smashing that over on Gunnar Henderson. I think the Orioles, my biggest complaint about the Orioles offseason is the one thing I felt like this team was really, really missing besides the pitching is they didn't have that one guy in the lineup that every time he comes up to bat, the other team moves back. Like, they didn't have that one
Yeah.
guy that puts fear in the heart of every single pitcher they face. I think they're hoping that Gunnar is going to become that guy.
I was about to say. I feel like that's kind of Gunnar Henderson now.
Yeah.
Like last year, I mean, slow start, sure, kind of like ruins the vibage on being that kind of guy. But like towards the end of the year, man, just kind of something about it. Something about it when that Gwen Stefani came on.
I'm gonna also, for a bold prediction, I'm going to predict that Kobe Mayo and Connor Norby do not make debuts as Orioles this year, and in fact are not in the organization by year's end because they will be traded for something big at the
Now
trade
that is
deadline.
hot. That is a steamy hot take.
That's what we say. That's what we call bold, baby. I'm being
That's
bold.
where we're ending the show. Good Lord.
I'd say go bold, man. Go bold.
Yeah, just
also a
that
bold
one.
prediction.
Let it
I got one more bold prediction. If you're thinking of anything, I'm gonna give you a little bit more time for more bold predictions.
No, man, I'm out.
Grayson Rodriguez and Corbin Burns both finished top 5 for Cy Young voting.
I'm down, man. I'm down.
All right. Well, I'm pumped, Jack.
I mean, how could you not be?
I am so pumped right now. Quick shout out to Joe. Joe is one of our biggest fans here at UPod Street. He wanted to check in. He joined late. He wanted to make sure that we were all okay with everything going on in Baltimore. Yes, Joe, thank you for asking. We are all okay. Obviously shaken up, but we are all doing well. Ready to move forward, ready to move into baseball season. I hope, whatever day opening day is on, everyone has a chance to watch, get excited. I know I've got family coming into town. I did, by the way, Jack, update from last week, Ticketmaster. I got the tickets. They came. I have them. You promised me. I should have listened to you. I have more faith in you, Jack. So I'm ready to go. We're back, baby. We are back.
So back.
With that, Jack, do you have any predictions for opening day? Who's going to win? What's the score going to be?
Well, first, I think it's going to happen on Friday.
Yep.
8-2 Orioles.
I'm going to say Friday, and I'm going to say 5-1 Orioles. I think Corbin Burns goes 6 2/3.
Boom.
Aaron Hicks, give him a nice applause when he comes out for the Angels.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you tuned in live across any social media platform, thanks, Jimmy. It's fun.
Absolutely, man. Let's do this. Let's get together soon for a game, too, by the way. Let's get together soon. I know you're busy, but we'll get together soon. All right, guys. Talk to you next week. As always, let's go O's.
Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.